The truth. What did you leave out?
Nothing that I can think of.
There's gotta be something. There is something.
There's too much here.
This is 33-year-old Heather Franklin. 3 hours before this was recorded, Heather lived a happy life with her husband Ernest and their adopted son Jeffrey. From the moment he joined the family, Jeffrey had it all: 2 loving parents, caring friends, and a bright future ahead of him. Or so he thought, since on February 28, 2017, he was trapped in a burning house.
Hey, we got one inside the northwest east corner. Back in. How old person? 16. I can't break in a line. We're stuck. Yeah, it's getting fully involved now.
What the firefighters don't know, Jeffrey was already dead before the fire started, and someone tried to cover up his murder. In 2017, the small community of Guilford is forever shaken, and what happened to Jeffrey that night will uncover one of the most disturbing child murders the state of New York has ever seen.
Something doesn't feel right. I'm honest, but
I was like, I'm looking for my boys. I'm looking for my husband. Where's my son? And that's when they told me he was unaccounted for.
What do you think happened?
I've been telling you, fire. That's all I know.
Okay, but we know that's not the case. Things weigh on it. I get that.
You do not understand what weighs on me.
In 2000, on the 22nd of July, a little boy named Jeffrey is born on the outskirts of Birminghampton, New York. Being the child of developmentally disabled parents, Jeffrey is passed from one foster family to another. Like his mother, he was born deaf and with special needs, finding it hard to understand and use his own language.
He was a kid that just would make you smile, and he loved everything. Behavior-wise, really, he did things a typical 3-4-year-old would do. It's just he was older doing them. But he was a happy kid, even with all the challenges he had.
In his first 10 years, Jeffrey is passed between 3 different foster families. By the time he turns 10, his uncle and aunt take him and his little sister into their home.
He comes to our house, and it was a complete change for him. Everybody loved him, so it was worth it to everybody.
The couple has 5 of their 9 children living at home, so adopting Jeffrey isn't an option, but for a while, they gave Jeffrey a home. A year later, Jeffrey becomes eligible for adoption, and at age 11, he finally gets a family of his own.
And there was an opportunity for Jeffrey to have his own parents. And we asked him, do you want to stay here with Uncle Ted and Aunt Jen, or do you want a mommy and daddy all of your own? And he said he wanted a mom and dad all of his own. It was difficult, not wanting to let him go. We loved him, but we also were taking comfort in he's going to get his own parents.
He is taken by Heather and Ernest Franklin, a couple who desperately want children but can't have their own. Over the next few years, the Franklin family seems to live a happy life, going on trips together and sharing special birthday moments. But everything changes on March 1st, 2017, when police receive a disturbing 911 call reporting a fire devouring the Franklin home.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
It's not my house, it's my neighbor's home. It's on fire.
Do you know if anyone's home?
Yeah, they're home.
Alright, if you want to go over and talk to them, make sure everyone's out of the house. And
I can't, I don't need to see them.
But you don't see them outside the house?
They came to my house and asked me to call the police.
Okay, alright. Okay, where do you see flames?
The whole house is on fire.
In a matter of seconds, deputy officers quickly head toward a small house in the secluded countryside. As they pull up to the address, the sight of a massive fire immediately catch their eyes. Quickly, they run over to the house, where they see a silhouette of a person claiming his son is in the house.
At that point in time, I realized this was a very serious situation. There's a child in that house.
I can't get in there, there's no way. No, there's no way. I don't know if they're gonna get the trucks up here. Right behind you. Here, go to the right.
As they try to look for a way into the house, flames are steadily consuming it, while the air is filled with falling ash. The sirens of a fire truck can be heard in the distance, but the rough terrain makes it difficult to reach the house. In the meantime, Jeffrey is trapped in the house.
In the back room, sleeping. Look at the fire. How old is the person?
Has gone to the north.
Can't get to him. I tried to run on the other side, I can't even get close.
09 single.
109 going.
09 single. Being advised that there's still one person in the house.
The boy's father says that he was walking his dogs. When he came back, he noticed the fire. That's when he checked the rear of the building to see if he could spot Jeffrey, but the fire made it impossible to do so. He then tried smashing the windows to break in, but it was too hot inside. In the meantime, the firefighters arrived and quickly established the situation.
Yeah, it's in this back corner over here. We can't even get close to it.
Alright, sir, we're gonna do our best. Sorry.
Yeah, it's getting fully involved now.
Man, I can't break in there on a line and we're stuck. You know what I mean? I can't go. I'd love to, but...
Yeah, I know. We felt the same way we walked. We ran up here. We're like, oh my God, we had no idea.
No.
It's hot.
Yeah. Water's coming, guys. We just got a lot of air on the guard.
Once the crew sets up their water lines, they begin pushing back the flames. It's too dangerous to send firefighters inside, so they have to come up with a new plan. After figuring out where Jeffrey was last spotted, they decide to direct their efforts to that spot. While the firefighters are doing the best they can, Ernest Franklin is pulled aside for questioning.
We started a movie. Watched that. Got over 10:30 or so. Wife had to go get some pregnancy meds. I started firing wood stove. Went to let one of the dogs out. Both got out. That one to go track the dog down and drag it back home. Get back down over the hill to fire in the living room.
What doesn't make sense to the officers is the fact that Ernest doesn't have a single injury. It seems as if he never even tried to save Jeffrey.
Usually, people go back into the house. They're injured, they're burned, or sometimes even they die themselves trying to recover children.
After the fire is put out, the firefighters make a disturbing discovery. They begin by removing debris piece by piece, sifting through everything that had fallen from the ceiling or walls. With every item they clear, they search for any sign of Jeffrey. After searching every room, they finally discover his body, lying on the mattress, almost as if he were peacefully asleep. Paramedics find it strange because it seems as if he never tried to escape the burning home.
All those things are adding up that something's not right here. There's something that was missing and we needed to find that.
As Jeffrey's body is taken to a pathologist, the police officers start investigating the scene. Pictures of the scene are taken, and every corner is carefully inspected. Following this, they are informed that the boy's mother, Heather, is at the neighbor's house. As they come to take her statement, she recounts the events that took place before the fire.
Well, I want to say like 11-ish, maybe. And then I went to Price Chopper.
Okay.
Did that stuff and headed back. And that's when she used the term on to a nightmare. I started asking everybody, are they over here? Are they over here? And I finally made it up the driveways. You know, the driveways are really steep. And two, being pregnant and already flipping out and being upset because I wasn't getting answers.
As she was visibly in shock, firefighters finally approached her and told her that her husband was alive, but Jeffrey didn't make it. Being pregnant at the time, Heather became extremely emotional. Losing her home and her child all at once was more than anyone could bear. A day later, the officers turned to the neighbor, Dominic Gildersleeve, who might know something more.
Ernie's my friend, you know. There's some things I'm not comfortable story-wise that aren't...
Just a 16-year-old died, so...
Right. Just something doesn't feel right. I don't know how to explain it.
Dominic feels suspicious about Ernest's behavior, especially because he went to him first before he called 911.
With being able to see how clear it was that it was on fire, how far away was he?
Right, to not
know that it was on fire.
He claims he didn't have any conversation with Ernest about the incident that happened because Ernest told him he has PTSD and he didn't want to trigger him.
This is what Ernie's always told me. Even fireworks set him off. He can't be around fireworks. When we had fireworks out here, he actually had to drive away because that was too much for him.
The investigators start to piece things together, realizing that something feels off, and they grow more suspicious. They sense that something has happened and that Ernest seems to be hiding something. Just 2 days after the fire, they get an unexpected call from the medical examiner informing them of several alarming details. There's no soot found in Jeffrey's airways, mouth, or tongue. This discovery doesn't line up with someone who supposedly died in a fire.
The lack of carboxyhemoglobin in Jeffrey's body told us that he wasn't breathing when the fire took place. We knew that Jeffrey was dead before the fire. So my conversation with the pathologist resulted in it going from a fire investigation to a homicide investigation. And we had to determine who did it.
Investigators immediately start looking for Jeffrey's killer. At the moment, their main suspect is Ernest. It seems odd to them that Ernest didn't try to enter the house to save his son. There is something he's hiding, and they're determined to find it.
It was looking more and more like Ernest was the person who did it. You know, it was intentional and not accidental. And so we had to continue our investigation and try to figure out, why he was trying to cover something up.
Following this, investigators decide to talk to Ernest's parents.
We're not going through as much as you might think.
No.
Because I'd want to see that boy
5 times, if that.
the last 6-7 years.
They want to understand the family dynamics and explore who Ernest is as a person, looking at the entire household. The parents tell them that Ernest was in the Army for 1.5 years. When he came back, he didn't seem like his old self. He grew increasingly furious, often lashing out by hitting walls. After Ernest's parents share their thoughts, his sister shows up at the station. She explains that in 2006, Jeffrey moved in with the Franklins, who became his foster parents. A decade later, they officially adopted him, and from that point on, everything took a drastic turn.
They pulled him out of regular school to homeschool.
Okay. Do you know why they did that?
They said they didn't like the school system. There was a comment that was made that didn't sit well with me.
Okay. Tell me about it.
It was a little after the fire.
Okay.
It was said in a matter of minutes, $2,000.
Talking about money without showing any concern for the loss of their child raises suspicion with the detectives. They want to know who made this comment, but Ernest's sister is reluctant about it.
Who said it? One of them said it.
I know, and I'm not telling.
The investigator observes her strong loyalty to her brother. Seeing this, he chooses to push her harder to uncover who made the statement. After a while, she finally cracks and admits that it was Ernest who said it. The detectives now begin piecing together a new version of events. Heather and Ernest have taken in Jeffrey through adoption, mainly because Heather struggled to have a child of her own. But once Heather finally became pregnant, things started to change.
It was starting to look like Jeffrey was becoming a burden. Heather was unable to conceive for many years, so they adopted a child. And now that they were able to conceive their own child, did they need Jeffrey anymore? There's obviously more behind that.
Jeffrey, once loved, turned into an unwanted responsibility. That's when they set on removing him from their lives and disguising it as an accidental fire that would cover up the truth. Despite needing the evidence, the investigators continue their work. They begin by verifying where everyone was on the day of the crime.
We're trying to figure out these alibis and try to be able to prove one way or another if they're true or not.
Ernest said he was deep in the woods running after the dogs when the fire broke out. His story seems shaky since no one was with him to back it up. On the other hand, Heather insists she visited multiple stores searching for medicine. Investigators quickly review the surveillance footage from several stores, and sure enough, she appears in multiple camera recordings around the time she mentioned. In the video, the truck arrives and she steps out, heading straight into the store. Heather can be seen picking up a cart and moving through the aisles, calmly shopping. Shortly after, the camera captures her checking out, visible from an overhead angle, holding only a couple of items.
So at this point, her story makes sense. So obviously, Ernest again is the only one at the house, and he's obviously the prime suspect.
Following this, Ernest is brought to the police headquarters for questioning.
What do you think happened to JR then?
Like I've been telling you, the fire.
That's all I know. Okay, but we know that's not the case.
Then I don't know.
Possible.
Ernest continues to hold on to his version of events. Right now, he has no clue the police have already discovered Jeffrey died before the fire even started. The detectives choose to confront him with this crucial detail, eager to see how he'll respond.
When people die in a fire, there's a lot of evidence. You have soot that you're breathing in, right? And carbon monoxide in your blood builds up, and that's what kills you. It's not usually the heat, it's not the flames, it's smoke inhalation. And two ways they know smoke inhalation: soot in your mouth, in your nose, in your trachea, and in your lungs. And a carbon monoxide level in your blood that's high. JR had none of that. He had no soot, he didn't breathe in any soot, and his carbon monoxide level is what ours are now, okay? Which indicates that he's not breathing in at the time the smoke gets to him in his room. And the only reason he's not breathing in when the smoke gets there is because he's not breathing at all, he's already dead. Something happened to JR.
During the entire interview, he stays composed, showing little emotion about his son's tragic death. His attitude appears detached and unfeeling. He asks the detectives why he would ever set fire to his own house, as it seems illogical to him. He insists that he deeply cared for his son and could never commit such a terrible crime.
Why would I burn my house down?
To hide what happened to JR.
Why would I kill him?
These things happen sometimes. Things weigh on you. I get that. We're both parents. We
do not understand what weighs on me.
You're right. I'm not you. What I'm saying.
You don't even know why I got into foster care.
I don't. Why don't you tell me why?
Because I shot a kid in Afghanistan. Mother and son. So one way I gave back was doing foster care, and he came along. From day one, I wanted to adopt him.
Ernest states that after returning from Afghanistan, he felt a strong desire to adopt a child, which led him to become Jeffrey's foster father. However, when investigators check his military records, they find no evidence of him serving in combat. This dishonesty raises red flags, leading detectives to suspect he's hiding something. They decide to push further for the truth, but Ernest sticks to his version of events.
We know something's done to him. We know this. And you know it too. In there, I know you know it. And until you talk about me, it's not going to go away. It's just going to be in there. It's going to fester.
You don't think I don't know that, do you?
I know you know this, but I'm trying to remind you.
I think it's not for lawyers.
At this moment, they have no choice but to stop questioning him and bring in the lawyer he asked for. Detectives are now sure that Ernest knows more than he's telling them. Following this, they decide to focus on his wife, Heather.
During the interview with Heather, we told her that Ernest was going to be charged with murdering Jeffrey. And we told her that she needed to put herself and her unborn child first.
Don't sell yourself out because you're trying to protect him. You're going to end up with your back to the corner.
Similar to Ernest, the investigators suspect Heather is keeping vital details to herself. They press her to reveal the truth about Ernest, promising that it will protect the child she's expecting. However, she still continues to give partial answers.
Don't take the fall for him if you know something, or don't leave anything out. Let's just say that. Don't leave anything out.
In the meantime, other investigators obtain a warrant to search her truck, and that's when they uncover vital evidence that might be the key to solving the case.
After taking the GPS unit that was in the vehicle, once you started looking at it and once you started seeing it time-stamped and gave a location of everywhere that vehicle went that night, there was some shocking revelations that we were all like, oh my goodness, what did we just see?
It begins with footage showing her leaving the house that night at the time she claimed, and the video confirms her arrival at Walmart. But then, after leaving Walmart, she returns to the house and stays there for about 5 or 6 minutes. After that brief stop, the car starts again, and she heads to another store. Contradictory to her original story, she insisted she never went near the house that night, but the footage says otherwise. Considering this, she now becomes a prime suspect.
The district attorney feels that he has enough evidence at this time to charge you with murder. Okay, there's probably going to be some additional charges, which we'll advise you of that when he decides that. But right now, we're going to have you sit in the other office. We're going to get you some additional paperwork and stuff to go forward.
Do I need a lawyer?
Well, that's going to be up to you.
After this, the detectives handcuff Heather and take Ernest into custody. Both are charged with second-degree murder.
After arresting Heather and Ernest that day, there was no doubt in our mind they were both equally involved in committing this crime. There are people out there that do things that other people wouldn't even fathom of doing.
Just a few days before Heather's arrest, she posted on Facebook to share with her friends and family how she deeply missed her son, whom she referred to as JR. I still feel so lost without having JR to look after. In 2019, 2 years after Jeffrey's death, Ernest steps into the courtroom. Inside, the prosecutor McBride begins to lay out his case. He explains that on the night of February 28th, the Franklins were watching Manchester by the Sea, a film where a father unintentionally starts a fire that tragically kills his 3 children, but he faces no legal consequences.
So, put a couple fire logs in the fire and just to warm up the house while I was gone.
McBride believes this detail holds a deeper significance for the case at hand. Within 2 hours of that movie playing to this defendant and her husband, Jeffrey's deceased, McBride said. She inexplicably left the house, driving around Chinango County and Delaware County, and doesn't return until the fire totally engulfs the house. In March 2019, Ernest receives a sentence of 21 years to life behind bars. Just weeks later, on the eve of her own trial, Heather admits guilt to the reduced charges of manslaughter and arson.
We'll never quite know for sure exactly what happened that night. We obviously know Jeffrey was dead prior to the fire. That's a fact that we always will know. We know that the fire was set to cover up the fact that Jeffrey was dead prior to the fire. As far as the fine details, we'll never know for sure because they're the only ones that could tell us that. Jeffrey was a child that couldn't speak anymore.
They promised to take care of that little boy. And if they killed him, I could never.
We remember his laughs, his favorite signs, things that he would do, his quirky little things that he would do. We remember those things, and we remember him often. He deserved a lot more. He should be living his best life. Best life doesn't mean a career or a doctor, just living your best life. Being happy with who you are. I miss him. We all do.